RhymBil is now online. Hey guys and girls, today is going to be the first video in our two-part series of making a to-do list using JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and Firebase. And then here we're going to save our HTML file. So you can go ahead and call it finish_task.html. Going back to our script here, I'm just going to put in a placeholder finish_task.css for a style sheet. And now back to our favicon, what I'm going to do here is go to my file explorer page, and then here I can see where my folder is. And in my folder, I'm just going to paste an image I found on the internet. And then I'm going to copy the name of that image and paste it in our script. And as long as you have the image in the same folder as your HTML file, naming it this way is going to work. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up our website. When you open it up, you should see you have your icon, which is your favicon, and you can see you have your title. Awesome. Alright, so now one of the last things we're going to do is to set up a link tag to our Font Awesome. Font Awesome is a website that allows you to import icons into your website, which is pretty cool. So we're just going to have a link tag referencing to that style sheet. And the very last thing we're going to do before we move on is to set up our script tag. As you know, we don't have our JavaScript set up yet, but we're just going to put this reference for now. Awesome. So let's go down to our body, and inside our body tag, we want to create a div, which is going to be our content container. This is going to contain everything we have in our website. And in our content container, we want to create a header tag, but we want to make it a div. So we're going to create a div, call it finish task header. And in our header, we're going to have a paragraph, which just says finish task. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to create our div. We're going to call it our task input container. This is going to contain our input box, our input date, and our button. And these are going to be used for adding tasks to our website. Alright, so in our button tag, we're gonna have to add an icon. In order to add an icon, we need a tag called I, and then we're gonna add a class to it. And this class is very specific because it links to our font awesome style sheet. So we're just gonna call it fa dash arrow circle right. That's pretty much how you get an arrow in a circle that's pointing right. And that's it. Alright, so let's go ahead and save our file and then go back to our web page. But it seems like we have a problem with our button because we don't see the arrow. So let's go back to our script, and if we see in our script when we go up, we should change our icon to style sheet. My bad, totally on me. So if we save, go back and refresh, we should see our arrow and our button. And that's how I do it. So going back here, I'm just gonna collapse this container. I'm not changing the code, I'm collapsing it so I have more space to work with. And then I'm gonna create a paragraph tag with a class of header, and this is gonna have the word task, because below this we're gonna have a div, a container, which is gonna contain all our tasks that we need to do. And now we're gonna create our task container. Our task container is gonna contain our task data and our task tool. In our data, we're gonna have some paragraph tags, which just has our title, what we need to do, which is our task. And down below, we're also gonna have our task date, which is when this task is due. And in our task tools, we're gonna have a checkmark button, which means it's done. And then we're gonna have an edit button, which we're gonna use to edit our task. And we're gonna have a delete button to delete the task. And just like I did before with our enter tasks button, I'm also gonna have icons for our tasks tools. For this one, I'm gonna have a check mark as an icon. So if we save what we have right now, go back to our website, refresh, you should now see we have a decent looking site. At least we have a check mark, okay? We have a check mark. So let's go back to our script, and in our script, we're just gonna duplicate our check mark. And we're gonna change them to edit and delete. Alright, so let's save, go back to our website, and you can see we have all our buttons there, and it looks kind of nice. So let's keep going. Just so you guys can follow along and see what I'm doing, I'm gonna collapse these divs, and I'm gonna copy this whole section. And then I'm gonna paste this section below. Just to keep it organized, this top section is gonna be our tasks to do. So that means that's a task we haven't done, which means we're gonna get beat if we don't do them. And then down below, we're gonna have our finished task, which is just gonna be whatever we finished. So now in our second section, I'm gonna rename our tasks to finished, and then I'm gonna remove our task tools, because obviously you don't need task tools if you finished the task. Awesome. So now when we refresh our page, you should now see we have our finished tasks below with no tools. That's great. Alright, so moving on, what I'm about to do is completely up to you. I'm basically duplicating our task container into 3 places, so that way we have 3 tasks instead of just 1. So that way it looks better when I make the CSS and stuff. And that pretty much concludes our HTML venture. It's been nice knowing you guys. Now we're going into the deep end, the CSS end. Hold on tight. Okay, so what we want to do now is to create a new file, and this new file is going to be our CSS. You want to make sure your CSS is being saved in the same folder as your HTML and your favicon image. And following that, we're going to create our JavaScript file. We're not going to do much of JavaScript today. We're just going to set up our Firebase app and database. And now we're just going to go ahead and create it. And I forgot to mention, make sure the name of your style sheet and the name of your script source is the same as the one you're saving. If it's not the same, then you want to change it in your HTML. Alright, so now you want to make sure all your files are saved. Go back to your browser, and in your browser you want to look up firebase.com. It says go to console, so we click on that, and now we're in the console, and you want to click create new project. When you click that, you want to name your project. I'm just going to name it finished task. You're going to hit next, and that's going to ask you for some Google Analytics or whatever. We don't need that, it's just a to-do list app. And then you want to hit next, and now we wait. Okay, so now it's done loading. We want to hit continue. And now once we hit continue, we're welcome to this nice, lovely page, which I wish I made, but I can't make yet. Okay, so now you want to find the HTML icon. Once you click on that, you'll be faced with another name your project. So we want to name it finish task. And that's it. Once you hit continue, you should now see a bunch of code below. So now all we have to do is to copy our script tag and paste it in our HTML file. Make sure it's above your JavaScript reference or it doesn't work. So now we want to duplicate this because we're using Firebase database. So we just initialize the app. We also want to initialize the database. So down below, we just want to change app to database. Done. Now back in firebase.com, we want to copy the script code. And this is just pure JavaScript, so we're going to copy the JavaScript part and paste it into our JavaScript file. I always like to indent my code from the margin, so I'm just going to highlight everything and hit tab. Alright, so let's go back to our Firebase, and then we want to hit next. Once we hit next, you should be greeted with a new page. And on this page, if you look to your left, you should see database in like a column or whatever, so you want to select that. And then you can see a nice looking home screen like I said before. And now if you scroll down, you should be greeted with real-time database. And this is what we're going to be using for our to-do list. Rad, let's go. And now back in our JavaScript file, you can follow me as I create functions for our button clicks. So let's go ahead and save what we have. Now if we go back to our website, refresh the page, you should now see nothing has changed because we only worked on JavaScript. So let's go ahead and open inspect element. You can do this by hitting Ctrl+Shift+I or right clicking and going down to inspect. And you can see my window is a bit different. Here I'm just going to show you how you can change yours if you want to. But the main thing is, when you click a button, you should now see it logging it in our console. And that basically means everything is good to go. And that's it for the JavaScript side. Alright, so now we're done with the HTML and JavaScript. All that's left is our CSS. For the CSS, it's a little bit long, so what I did was I copied and pasted everything from my old testing code into here. So that way you don't have to watch me type out every single letter. It's a bit faster and you can pause and copy down whatever you need. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, after all those hours of typing letter by letter, going back, refreshing, all that time of saving, opening up files, I could finally announce we're done. That's it. I'm glad you guys joined me on making this wonderful website. It looks great, but this is just the visual side of things. Next part, we're going to cover the JavaScript file and the Firebase stuff, which is going to be pretty easy too. Don't worry about that. And if you guys want the source code for this, which is just the CSS, the HTML, and the JavaScript we did today, I'm going to have it on my Patreon page, and you guys can pay a high price of $2 if you guys want. And that's it for the video. And until next time, RhymBil out.
JC on the track, boy.